Hi, thank you for joining me today. It's wonderful that West Hartford Public Television broadcasts these shows. It's a monthly show, and we call it The Secret of Love, after the book, The Secret of Love, Unleash the Mystery and Unlock the Mystery, Unleash the Magic. And the first episode, to catch you up if you've not tuned in to the first episode was an interview with my co-author, Christine Heath. She was in Hawaii, I was in West Hartford, and we spoke together about why the book is called The Secret of Love. And what's the secret? Everybody wants to know, what is the secret of love? So we spoke about how love is something that we have always. We're born with it. It's with us. You can observe it in babies. They'll be upset about something, and whether it's a wet diaper, they get the diaper changed and they're giggling again. They're not holding on to thoughts about what took you so long to change my diaper. They're not holding on to thoughts that we as adults tend to hold on to. So that's the secret. And I'm going to break things down because there's a lot more that becomes evident as you start looking within yourself. You don't need to have things and get love and wanting your partner to give you certain things when you recognize that it's with you already. It's a matter of sharing it. And so the second episode, I spoke more about that. And I left off with sort of like a homework assignment. This isn't a course, but you could think of it like that. And I suggested that you reflect for the month on what your family might be like if everyone in that family expressed love rather than wanting to get it in a certain way, wanting to get it in the way they think it should be given to them. How would that change a family? And so that brings us up to our third month here. And what I'm going to talk about with you today is there's something that we can rely upon that's also within us called feelings. It's like our feelings are our own inner compass that will let us know when we're heading off track and how to recalibrate and get back on track. But before I go there, I want to say a little something about how you want to listen to these programs, and it's also the way you want to listen to other people in the world, by the way. Not like you're in a course taking notes or wanting to remember the words that I say, but it's about the feeling behind the words. That's what you want to listen for. That will trigger insights within you. Again, here we are. I'm talking about going within, going inside yourself. So there's a quote from the book. It's a Sid Banks quote by our teacher, Christine, my co-author, and I, and many, many people in the world. You can Google sidbanks.com if you want to learn more. And this quote speaks to what we're going to talk about today. Words are merely a form. Listen not to words, but to that which words attempt to convey. And so it's the trick here, the secret you might say, is recognizing that we all, human beings, because we have a brain, we're tempted to analyze things through our brain. That wonderful organ that is very useful to get things accomplished in life. The brain is useful to tell us when to make a right turn to get to a place we're headed. Like we're driving down the road and listening to GPS, and so the brain is deciphering, analyzing when to make that right turn. So we want to go deeper than the brain. We want to go deeper to wisdom. Wisdom is a deeper knowing. We can call it the intelligence, really the intelligence behind all things, not just us. It's also the difference between the intellect, which is what comes through the brain, and this deeper intelligence. And that's what you want to tap into. The way to do that is by quieting your brain. Quiet your brain down so it's not analyzing and interpreting and trying to figure things out. Nothing to figure out here. What I'm going to be speaking about in these episodes is so simple. Look for the simplicity. It's so simple that what Sid Bank's great discovery for all of us, for humanity, was that you can break the human experience, any experience we have in our lives from birth to death, which is every second. We're experiencing life every second. It's coming through us through what we've called now principles. A principle, like the principle of gravity, is always true. It's true for everybody, whether you live in China, Asia, South America, anywhere in the world. And it's true no matter how old you are. And it's true for people whether they know about it or not. Gravity is true. I love watching babies learn about gravity. You see them in the grocery store, mom puts something in the cart and they promptly drop it out of the cart. They're getting a kick out of learning about gravity. Well, maybe you can get a kick out of learning about these principles of human psychological functioning: mind, thought, and consciousness. There are three words. One of my favorite teachers of this paradigm, Judy Sedgman, wonderful, brilliant person, she says, call it Mo, Curly, and Harry. What are the three stooges? Mo, Curly, and Larry. And call it anything you want, but mind, thought, and consciousness, as Sid spoke about these principles, he would say universal mind. It's the mind, the intelligence, the wisdom behind everything and everyone. And there's no judgment in that wisdom. There's just a knowing. It's, when we have an intuition about something, we get a gut feeling about something, that comes under the umbrella of universal mind. And universal consciousness is every human, and it's being found now that in even physics that this is true. Our ability to be conscious of creation, the world around us, is universal. Everybody is aware of what they're thinking. And the principle of thought is the ability to create thoughts. Now, as a human, you know that you can create thoughts of joy, happiness, sadness, relief, upset, feeling denigrated, feeling put upon, all of that is coming through our ability to think. And we're conscious of what we think. And that is reality for us. That is everybody's personal reality, which, by the way, is different for every person. But we're going to go into separate realities, as we call it, in another episode. So today, we're going to talk about these feelings that we have, which are really thought. I mean, think about it for a moment. We could take a really dramatic happening like 9/11, when the Twin Towers came down, and we heard about it on the news. we were all extraordinarily upset about it. And sometime during that day, I'd be willing to bet that every one of you listening forgot about that. Our thinking went somewhere else. It was as if 9/11 never happened. And then we remembered again, wow, that terrible, awful thing happened. Well, that occurs in our daily life. So when I have couples come to me in my private practice, they will often talk about this terrible argument they had the night before, and they were hard pressed to actually remember how it even began. And after a good night's sleep, and their level of consciousness rose, which happens, I touched on that last episode, how we go up and down in levels of consciousness all day long. We're hungry right before lunch or dinner, and the mood tends to drop for people. And in a fight between people, those two people or more, however many people are in this fight, this argument, they're not aware in that moment that they are in a lower level of consciousness. If they were aware of it, they'd be able to say, oh, wow, I'm just going to stop and listen. I'm just going to listen to what the other person has to say. I'm not going to feel offended because I know that that's coming from their thinking. It's really not me. It's not, even if they're thinking something mean and nasty about me, that's not who I am. That's their thinking. And it's a game changer for us when we realize that. And we forget. We get caught up in our thoughts, the other person's thinking. But then, hopefully, that's why we wrote this book, and that's why I'm doing this series, that people will begin to recognize they can use their feelings to guide them throughout life, no matter what's happening. It's like having an inner compass, this invisible inner compass that will tell us when we're off course. Now, we get that when we're out in the world. We have all of these signals: green light go, red light stop, yellow light caution. It guides us. It lets us know when we're heading in the right direction and when to stop and regroup. If you're out in the wilderness, hopefully you have a compass, and that lets you know when you just made the wrong turn because you didn't see the blaze on the tree, whatever color blaze you're following. That too lets you know. That's another signal. Colors on trees lets us know when we're on the right course. Well, we have an invisible compass, an invisible guidance system that's with us all the time. It's the feelings we're getting from our own thinking. And if we're thinking something negative, judgmental, critical, the feeling is bad. And sometimes the feeling comes with this compulsion to speak what's on our mind, to just say it as though we'll get it off our chest and we'll feel better. Well, that might be true for you, but once you've spoken words that are hurtful to another person, again, that other person won't realize that, most likely won't realize that their hurt is coming from them. They'll hear it as coming from your words. Wouldn't it be great if, in fact, everybody in the world realized that their hurt feelings, their upset feelings were coming from their own thinking? And that's something to reflect on. And we could take it back to your reflection from last month. If everybody in your family were to think in terms of sharing the love that they already have, it's limitless. It's not like you're going to share it and The love inside you is going to be depleted. It's abundant, it's infinite, it's, like the energy behind all of life. You never run out of it. The only thing that makes it appear that you're running out of it is your own negative thinking. So if everybody in a family was expressing that love rather than thinking that they had to make their point, they had to prove that they were right. There's a saying I see every so often in different places, a Facebook, Pinterest, or something like that, that says, it's better to love than to be right. It's better to feel good than to prove you're right. Because really, proving you're right is coming from your own thinking. And the other person has their own thinking, and they're going to go into proving that they're right. And where does that get us? Nowhere fast. Oh, it's fun to share your different views, to talk about how you see things, knowing that your view of life is not the only view in town. It's just your personal perspective. And when you see how it works through mind, thought, and consciousness, how it works that we feel our own thinking, how it works that everybody functions the same way. They feel their own thinking, and if they don't realize it in that moment, or they haven't come to that understanding yet, they're going to go with whatever thinking is on their mind at the time. And sometimes you can watch it and be entertained by it. Sometimes you can watch it and be curious about it. What brought that person to think that way? What brought that person to believe in what they're talking about? What brought that person to draw that conclusion? When you get curious, what will come out will be a question that is interested in the other person. That's part of the secret of love. If you're interested in how the other person got there, how they're thinking, boy, does that settle things down. Because guess what? The other person is arguing because they want you to be interested in them. Not necessarily interested in what they're arguing about, just interested in them. Doesn't everybody want that? They just want to feel like you're taking interest in them, in how they see the world, and how they interpret things. And by the way, it's just an interpretation. Who knows what's really out there? We're interpreting what's out there through our own thinking. And I know I mentioned this in the last episode, that we go through life more as artists, painting a picture on the canvas of life. And the paintbrush and the colors are our own thinking. And it's our consciousness that's bringing those thoughts to life through the paintbrush. And what do we get? We get whatever thinking is on our mind. So if our thinking is to bother somebody or to have them feel bad, that's what's going to come across. And that will alert you. That feeling doesn't feel good. It feels negative. It feels hurtful. And so here's a little homework for you this next month, until I see you again next month. Or you see me again. I wish I could see you. And in fact, I will see you if any of you volunteer to be on the show. Just send me an email to Lori@threeprinciplestherapy.com. And also email me if you have any questions that specific questions that you'd like me to speak to in the show. But what I'd like you to reflect on, really don't think of it as homework, it's just gentle reflection, is your feelings. How do you feel? What are your feelings telling you? Don't get analytic about it. Just see how it plays out in life. Life is like the great teacher. It's the great laboratory. If you see it like that, you'll notice it just in your daily interactions, day to day. So it's a wonderful thing to be curious about how we function as human beings, and the answers are all within you, because as you observe yourself, that's how other people are experiencing their thinking. It works the same for everybody. Knowing that really levels the playing field. Then you see you're no different, you're no better, you're no less than anyone else. We're all built the same. It's really what sets us apart is our understanding of how it works. Because you'll find that you'll live in a much calmer, more peaceful, more loving state of mind as you uncover more of this understanding within yourself. You'll have insights. An insight is just seeing something within yourself, seeing something inside yourself. So let me see. We just have 5 more minutes, so I just want to leave off with another quote for you to reflect on. This has to do with forgiveness. And, forgiveness is a beautiful feeling. So if you're walking around with resentment on your mind, that's negative. It's a negative feeling. That feeling alerts you to change course. You don't have to agree with what the other person said or did. But here's a little story from the book. I remember someone telling me he could never forgive his dad because his dad was alcoholic. And when he got drunk, he would beat him. He said he could never possibly forgive his dad. To me, that was sad. Suddenly, he realized what his dad must be going through. Not just him, but his dad, to be going through this awful state. It was like a light switched on in his head, and he suddenly burst out crying. It was the first time in his life that he felt love for his dad, and now he and his dad are the best of friends. It's touching, no matter how many times I've read that. It's such a touching story. That's true for everybody who realizes that people behave and say and do what they do according to how they're seeing life. That's the innocence in all people. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean that they won't wind up, creating havoc in their life and creating problems for themselves. But if they can see that the problems they create, or their problems, were created by how they've been viewing themselves and the world, that'll change things for them. It's bound to. Maybe not instantaneously, although that has happened to some people, not to me. It was, a gradual, and now you keep learning. The more you go within, the learning never ends. Observing how life works, observing how we're conscious of our own thinking is a lifelong learning proposition, and it's fun, interesting, exciting, and so helpful to everyone who explores this psychological aspect of life. It's our psychological lives from birth to death are the result of how we interpret the world. And it shows, too, we can see that we interpret life so differently from morning to night sometimes, from within an hour, before lunch and after lunch, before 8 hours of a good night's sleep, and after that 8 hours of good night's sleep. We're the same person seeing life differently. So thank you once again for joining me. Please share this with any friends, family you know who could benefit. And don't forget to email me with any questions that you may have. I promise I'll respond. I'll let you know if it gets to be too many questions. But for now, it's working out perfectly. Thanks. See you next month.